Welcome to our newest episode. It's your co-host, Rissy,
Hey.
and yours truly, Kaninja. So today we actually got a request to talk about the vaccine. I know we've talked about the vaccine previously, I think a few times, and COVID a few times previously, but it has been a few months since that happened, or since we've talked about it. And we have a few new items to really kind of talk about and kind of gauge our feelings from that break room buddies. So I guess what we're going to start out with is the vaccine and kind of where we're feeling now. Has our feeling changed from previous?
I
So
feel the same MFing way I did last year. Don't do this, Ninja. I feel the same exact way. Clap.
So for those of you who don't remember, Rissy does not want to get the vaccine. So Rissy, do you want to elaborate a little bit more as to why?
Well, again, since everybody will throw all these facts, it's a personal reason. It's a personal reason. I am safe. I am an advocate of being safe. Make sure you use hand sanitizer, hand wash whenever available. Wearing your mask, cleaning it, or using a disposable one. What else? I distance the F out of myself. I'd be like, why are you all up on me? So when I go to the grocery store, I put the cart behind me.
Oh.
I used to do it in front of me, but I'm like, hold up, I can give you that 6 feet. What are we doing here? I could give it's the people behind me that's not giving me my 6 feet. So I put my cart behind me to make my 6 feet.
Oh, and I never thought about that.
I did that one time, like I said, it was inspiration. I was at Walmart of all places, okay? And I was like, hold the F up. Why can't you back instead of me saying back the A up or whatever? I was like, you know what? Cart, where you at? And so did that. Exactly. So I believe I'm not with the vaccine. I feel like the recipe was too quick. Personally, I do feel that because this is all of it's new. So all this new, no one really knows anything. We won't know until 20 years from now what happened, really. But I feel because I do want more children, and I am of childbearing age, and I already have issues with my cycle already, I feel like it would negatively affect me being able to possibly be fertile, negatively affect my change. So I was like, so those were the things I was like, you know what? I'm just going to elderberry it up. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to do kind of different things that I need to do to stay healthy and safe. And that's kind of where I am with it. And just health-wise, like my future self. So future self, because like, hey, who has not heard about mesothelioma? Okay.
That's true.
So, that's my take on it. And Kaninja is my bestie. And my Kaninja is vaccinated.
Yeah, totally different side of the spectrum. But I totally get it. I totally get where Rissy's coming from. Is it's definitely a comfort level. And like from my standpoint, I think last time I was like an adamant, like you need to get the vaccine and that's what you need to do. I've definitely come a little bit differently. Not so much as like you don't get the vaccine, as in if you're not gonna get the vaccine, do what Rissy's doing, like being safe, taking those precautions. The mask does work. I know there's a lot of different things about, people thinking that the mask doesn't work. But it's just taking those precautions of, just the air and people around you and just your vicinity. And if you don't want to get the vaccine, it's totally understandable, especially for comfort level. I do get into some debates with some people when it comes to like,
all the time.
Yeah, especially when it comes into like certain facts and stuff like that. But if it boils down to comfort level, I'm not going to argue that, because that's not something that I can argue. So, but as long as you're staying safe, because at the end of the day, like I care about Rissy and she's staying safe, and I know that nothing's bad's going to happen to her as far as COVID or the Delta variant, because she's staying safe. So that's kind of where I am. I'm vaccinated, but I still wear the mask. I still try to be safe. I have asthma. I am in childbearing years, and I do want to have a child, but I also don't want to get COVID just in case what happens there with the long haulers. Kind of like what, kind of going back to our previous episodes with the long haulers, is that possibility of having long-term effects because of COVID. So I don't know how that will affect, whether it's childbearing or whatever the case, but as long as I'm staying safe, Rissy's staying safe when it comes to the PPE, I think we're good to go. It kind of goes on to those people that aren't vaccinated and aren't staying safe is a different story. Rissy, what are your thoughts on those kind of people?
Man, listen. I don't know. Like, it's just weird because we live in an age where we're like, hey, do you?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do you over there. But people fail to realize that your actions really immediately affects other people.
Right.
And like, just, I don't know. It's a weird situation where it's like, again, we live in a time where you do you. No one's going to tell you what to do. One life to live. YOLO. No. It's one of those things where you just have to look out for you and yours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I appreciate when people are, let me say, like, think about like some of the work that I do. I'll go to a home and they're just like, would you like me to put my mask on? And I'm like, I mean, you're at home right now, so I'm not really going to expect it because I work in a mask all 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, as we're doing right now, so that, so it's just weird. It's just weird. It's like it's been so many debates, Kaninja, where it's like you say one thing, and it's like two things. Like, I respect if you get any of the vaccines, I'm okay with it.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah,
I totally understand. That's why we pay for car insurance. Like,
that's why we pay for health insurance. Basically.
That's why we pay for health insurance. Like, it's just what it is. It's like I've been on how many accidents? I've been maybe one or two or three or three car accidents, but how many years have I been paying car insurance?
Right.
Like over 10 years.
So I guess like for you, you're kind of like, you really don't mind either way. You're like, okay, you're gonna wear a mask.
I'm tired of arguing against dumb people. Okay, I'm tired. Did anybody else notice that? We've been arguing with dumb motherfuckers. Okay, like, like I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I went to work, I was like, hey, I just asked because it was a conversation because it just, it was among other things that were happening. And they're like, no, I'm not vaccinated. I said, and that's okay. That's all right. I don't want, please. I don't want the spiel. Please.
You're just done talking about it.
I don't want to learn. Okay. I don't want to learn.
Well, lucky for you, for this podcast, we're going to do some learning.
When you argue with dumb people, it's just like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Because people who are I'm gonna even put it out there, average intelligence understands, like, you know what, it is what it is. It's all new. It's not like the measles where there's people who are anti-vaxxers and people feel more. Mm-hmm. It's still on the line of anti-vaxxers because that's what you're becoming. But right. But it's like a degree, right? You know what I mean? Like a degree of like you're like, well, not this, but that, not this. Right. You're picking and choosing or whatever. That's a whole nother podcast episode for it. But for me, yeah, I'm tired of arguing. I'm tired. I want average people to talk to me. Like,
I don't blame you.
I'm tired.
I don't blame you at all.
I was like, fine. Like, well, my child got the what's good? The Pfizer is the one for kids.
I know the Pfizer is FDA approved. So I'm assuming
that's the one that has where 12 years and up, 12-year-olds and up to get it, which I feel is a conspiracy, but that's a whole nother episode with that. Because why is it the only one that is going to be FDA is the one that we're already giving out to little kids? But because it would have been messed up if Moderna was approved for Pfizer, and Moderna is only for 18 and up. But that's another conversation for another day. So you know what I mean? Like, I'm just tired of arguing. Are you tired of arguing, Kaninja? Like, aren't you? Like, you be fighting. Kaninja be fighting everybody.
I do.
Like, Kaninja's like quiet. Like, she's quiet. She's a quiet samurai. Okay. She over here. She's like, I'm gonna do me. You know, I got my bills, my dog, I got my life to live. And then she hears some masks don't work. Like, and it's not like so far away in the crevices of the internet. It's someone right beside her. Like, she's like,
what do you mean it don't work? I guess, like, for me, you know, just like this is a side note, if someone says something that just doesn't make sense to me, I can't just let it go. Like, I have to understand where did you get to this point? Why? And what experiences have you gotten to get to this point, and how much of it is false? And so but I am tired of being angry about it. I don't mind talking about it, because Breaker Buddies, Rissy can tell you, there was a few times that I have vented so hard to Rissy on the phone about just vaccines and, you know, anti-vaxxers and all the ones that are not even being safe. And I'm gonna get on a whole roll on this one, but like that's but that's just what it is. But I'm tired of being angry about it, because I really was spending a lot of energy of just being angry about the situation. But it's not going to change anything of me being angry. But I think what's going to change is at least I can give information when they're like, oh yeah, masks don't work. It's like, oh, okay, well, when you spit, you know, when you're talking, like literally when people talk and they don't have their mask on, sometimes they spit. Like, there were times where, like, I've gotten spit on my arms or whatever, and I'm just like, this is nasty.
Your arm? Nasty.
Yes!
I can spit on my arm.
So, basically, yeah, like, they would talk, and then...
Basically.
It was like a spray, you know? So, like, yeah, it's happened before, and so when people say that masks don't work, it's just like, literally, when you're talking, you are putting out particles, whether they're big or small or whatever, you are putting out particles. And because these people are also asymptomatic, you know, they don't know if they're sick, those particles can go right onto you, can go right into your mouth, go up your nose, go in your eye, whatever the case, you don't even know. With a mask, at least you're keeping those particles in, if not all, but at least a good percentage of those particles in your vicinity. Keeping it within you, keeping your germs in you, and not allowing your germs and your bacteria going into someone else in their bubble, you know. And then the other person wearing the mask is another layer of protection, saying, okay, whatever came out of your mask, since it's, you know, cloth, you know, whatever came out of your mask, is the rest of it is being blocked by the front of my mask. So I'm keeping my particles with me, and you keep your particles with you. But people who don't believe that, again, I'm going into a whole rabbit hole of just that alone. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm tired of being angry, but I'm not tired of talking about it, because, yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people who are wholeheartedly against this vaccine, but not only, and also like against the whole thing, like aren't taking anything seriously anymore. And they're like, no mask, no nothing, you know, I'm not going to take the vaccine. It's a conspiracy, all that stuff. You know, a lot of these people are getting into like worse things that like make no sense, which we're going to get into in part 2, but make no sense. And just any sort of logic they give, it's just like, but why are you doing this? And so that's the part I get like a little frustrated, but not as angry as I used to be.
Why?
Why are you doing this? But yeah, so I mean, Rissy, what are your thoughts about the whole Delta variant? Like, I've heard people talk about how it could be the vaccine's fault for the Delta variant. It could be the actual COVID's fault from a Delta variant, or just the Lambda. And I think there's another one that starts with an M in Texas that happened, or whatever the case. What are your thoughts on all these different variants?
To be honest with you, we putting on that it's bad language on this episode, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to after what you just did earlier.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Kaninja. As soon as the Delta variant came out, I just thought, shit. I was thinking because you already like myself. I'm not getting vaccinated. I have my personal reasons, comfort, and everything. But so I'm thinking, like, okay, we already know what we can do. What we can. They said, hey, we got a Delta. I'm like, shit. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, it's more contagious. I'm like, okay. Like, we can make this work. We can make this work. But then I saw the landing and I said, you know what? Shut us all down. Shut it down to the ground. Give us a stimmy check so the economy doesn't take a tank like it did last year in certain areas like retail and hospitality. There's other ones. There's other industries that took a hit. That's the ones that I saw a lot more reports. GDP went down. Like, like different things like that. Help, just shut us down. Just shut us down. Shut us down. Get patient zero, like they do in the movies. Figure out what to do with the Delta patient zero and the landing patient zero and the third question mark, and then opens us in sections. Open us up in sections.
But if they come out with a vaccine quickly, no one's going to take it because that's what's going to be the result.
What as professionals need to tell us is how long should the regular typical cycle of a vaccine creation take?
So on average, from what I've heard, it's about 5 to 10 years on a normal basis. Now, what I also heard for the polio, when polio came out, that virus, they actually got a vaccine within a year. And everyone took it. Of course, if they didn't, we wouldn't be here right now. And so at least that's from what I've heard is that the polio virus, that actually all of the scientists came together to create a vaccine within a year. And so when it comes to, but on a normal basis, when it's not like a global pandemic like polio was or this is or whatever the case, it's like 5 to 10 years. Because they do take that, I don't know the whole into it, but I don't think they have as many people on the job for that, where you think of all the different scientists in the world on the same job, it's going to have more data a lot quicker, a lot faster. But if you have people just working on different vaccines and it's just money and one section,
money. They don't want to do it for the greater. I mean, you should get paid for your time. Nobody's saying doing charity work because you are taking away from your time, your family, you're possibly traveling, right? No one's saying for you to do it free. But what we're saying is we can print out imaginary monies. So why can't we just do that so that everybody can come together like the polio and just come together and say, hey, everybody's dying. Yes. The reports were different. Everyone's dying. If you're not dying, everyone's negatively affected because they are seeing long-term effects of contracting COVID.
Right.
And how it's strictly now where, it spreads like a tree branch, right? So let's all come together. We print our own money, okay? Let's just, you want $1 million? Go ahead. Be on the team.
Exactly. But I mean, if you want to bring it back to project management a little bit. You remember when I was telling you
triangle.
The triangle. Rissy knows the triangle really well. Me. But with the triangle, you have something on the top, a scope, and you have schedule, and then you have budget, you have money. And so if you want something quick, so that's the schedule. If you want something quick, then you have to either increase the scope, or you have to adjust the scope or adjust the money. But so the scope, let's say COVID, well, the scope can't be adjusted. We want to adjust so the scope is constant. You want to adjust the schedule. So what do? You got to add the money. What's money typically? It's people, it's resources, it's people on the job working on it. And so the more people you have on a particular project, typically you think that it would be faster. So in this case, it was. Now, if we're talking about other methodologies, I would argue separately, because then too many cooks in the kitchen can really hurt it. But with this situation, because they had so much data to back them up, instead of just a small portion, and let's say in Trinidad, or a small portion in, Italy, or whatever the case, they have the globe. They have all of the states' data that they can work towards, and all the different variables that they can work towards. So in that sense, it makes sense why they were able to do in a year instead of 5 years, but I can also understand why it's uncomfortable for people, because a typical basis would be 5 to 10 years. Okay, well then, if I'm just looking at that 5 to 10 years, there should be more case studies. There should be a lot more longer studies to see how long-term effects are. And so, like, I guess, Rissy, I can see you're thinking, I don't know if you are thinking, but I can see you thinking, we haven't even gotten to that 5-year mark. So we don't even know the long-term effects of this vaccine, and that makes sense.
What's throwing me off is the different brands. I think that does not help either, because everybody knows about marketing if you've taken a marketing class or whatever, or just experienced it on the other end as a consumer. When there's too many, it's a minute. You got to compare, contrast. Like, we have 3 brands of a vaccine that has what like with great effectiveness. That's not comfortable for me. I'm like, so what's different from that? So if I get this, what's different from that? Like, there's certain things that you can clearly see, like Johnson & Johnson is 1 versus 2. You don't have to remember to do the booster. You don't have to take time out of your day to do the booster. Okay, that's imminent. Like, that's in your face. You can see that. But what else? Because the vaccine free. So it's not like, oh, this such and such is 200, but this one 300. Well, what makes it 300? Like, what kind of razzle dazzle's in there? Like, I can save a couple dollars to get the razzle dazzle. You know what I mean? You don't know. Right. And the brand doesn't help either. On a consumer level, because we are consumers, even though we're not paying for it, it's because we're like, so what's the difference? Right. What makes it where I could be, you can't do this, but what makes it where I won't have some type of buyer's remorse? Yes. Like, what can I do? Because some of the symptoms that you get from the vaccine, some people are fine, right? So we're not, but there are some show that they have a headache after. They some of them lose their taste of smell. Somebody taste or smell. And I'm like, what? And that's from them taking it. So it's like, so what's the difference again? Like, was it what? Like what recipe? What makes, what makes a pie and what makes cake a cake? Yes. Like, what makes Pfizer different from Moderna? Like, what makes both of them different from Johnson & Johnson? Like, what's that it? And no one knows what, well, someone does know, but us lay people don't know what is the it, what it is that makes this, other than I see the P. Yeah, no, and I totally get that too, because, like, I mean, the biggest thing is the efficacy rate. So like the Johnson & Johnson, if I remember correctly, and Break Room Buddies, you can definitely correct me on this one. Do you want to be corrected by Break Room Buddies? Like, either way, I'm going to be corrected. So regardless if I ask or not. But I think the efficacy rate of the Johnson & Johnson is around like 67%. And then the Moderna and the Pfizer, I think the Pfizer has actually a little bit more efficacy rate than the Moderna does. But it has the same technology. And of course, the technology in the Pfizer and Moderna is different than Johnson & Johnson. So like you said, like, okay, Johnson & Johnson and the Pfizer, like, Johnson & Johnson is clear as day what the difference is. But it's between the Moderna and the Pfizer, is just like, what is the difference between the two? Like, is it just brand? And there is a slight difference of efficacy rate. I've also heard that people who take Moderna have a little bit more of the symptoms, the immune response, a little bit more of an immune response than people who have the Pfizer. And Pfizer is the one that has been FDA approved, even though Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are kind of on its way to be.
but the Pfizer seems to be the most safest, at least from what I've heard. Now, I took the Moderna. I didn't have that many symptoms.
Yeah, okay, living the wild life. She said, well, I took the Moderna, so with that immediate response, okay?
It was only because they had extras and I got a call saying, we have extras. Do you want to come? I'm like, all
right. Again, that goes back to that brand awareness. Like, we don't know. We just, it was free.
Yeah. And it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense why that is the case. And they need to put more information out there as far as like what people are asking, you know, what the difference is. Why is it free? You know, why did you make it free? Or whatever the case. That information I think would be really helpful to just for people to know and coming straight from them and not some person on Reddit or not some person on Facebook or whatever the case.
I need a chart.
Yes. A chart would be really good, actually. So on that note, we are going to go on a break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation, but also talk about what other things that people who are not vaccinated are taking instead of the vaccine, and other kind of precautions and stuff like that. With that, we'll be back. And we're back. So basically, if you were a part of the first part, we kind of just talked about our feelings about the vaccine and kind of just different things about, you know, where we feel uneasy and the things that we've heard about, like the masks and so on and so forth. So on this part, we're going to be talking about some statistics that I got from the CDC, as well as what people are doing instead of wearing masks and instead of doing the vaccine. So we'll just start with the statistics. They're just plain statistics just to keep everyone in the loop of kind of where we are today. So as far as the vaccine, 182.4 million people have the full vaccine. And I believe from the CDC that was in the United States. I want to double check that though. And then as far as the second dose or having the first dose, 2.3 million people have gotten the first dose. So let me go back to this one. I thought I had it up, but I guess not. So I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure that is of the United States. It is the 182.4 million have been fully vaccinated and 2.3 million have their first dose. As far as COVID deaths within the United States, over 600,000 people have died from COVID. Now that's just a blanket statement. So is that people who are vaccinated or not vaccinated? I did not get those numbers, but I have heard that the majority of people who have died from COVID, the majority of those are not vaccinated.
Question.
Yes.
And I know that it's just a blanket term. Like, I mean, that's the number just encompassing everything. So that number would include people who already had like a pre-existing condition as well.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it includes anybody who has died from COVID. And so pre-existing, non-pre-existing, old, young.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, and then everybody. Everybody. Exactly. And just to kind of go back from the first part that we mentioned, in the United States, we have 3 vaccines. So we have the Johnson & Johnson, the Pfizer, and Moderna. But in the world, we definitely have more than just 2 vaccines. We have AstraZeneca. I think there's another vaccine. I think there's like a Russian vaccine. And I think there's also a Chinese vaccine. So there are more than 3 vaccines in the world. But in the United States, those are the 3 that we mainly know of, which is the Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and So that's something just to keep in mind, where like the Delta variant, I think that originated in Europe. And I don't know where the Lambda variant has originated from. And the one that starts with an M, I think it was in Texas. So that's something, just some background information.
That's actually good to know. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's really good to know that there are other vaccines. It's not just what we got over here. It's just, these are what is accessible to us here in the US.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and it's interesting too, because especially when you hear certain stories that are, in a different country, of like Nicki Minaj and how her cousin's friends, testicles were swollen from the vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
which I think Trinidad had declined that thing that actually happened. But that person did not take any of the vaccines that we have in the United States. They actually took, I believe it was either, I think it was the Chinese version of the vaccine. And so I don't remember the name of it though, but it was not the Johnson Johnson, the Pfizer, and Moderna. But that information was not widely stated. So here in the United States, people are going crazy, like, oh, I don't want my testicles to get swollen. I'm not going to take the vaccine. Well, the vaccine that this person took is not even the vaccines that we have here. And so,
Gotcha. It's not even what is available. Like it's not.
right, exactly. And they were mentioning how that's not even correlated. And so there could be other situations as to what happened with that one. And so
maybe a pre-existing condition.
Exactly. Could be something along those lines. Unfortunately, that person was supposed to get married but didn't get married and all that stuff. But yeah. So now they're thinking that the vaccine is affecting fertility rates, kind of like what you mentioned earlier. And so a lot of men, from what I've heard, who are not vaccinated are starting to think that their swimmers are going to be a hot commodity in the next few years because they think that anyone who is vaccinated, their swimmers are not going to be of reproductive use. So
this is The Handmaid's Tales already. Have you watched it?
I haven't watched it, but I've heard about it, and I'm thinking about watching it.
This is The Handmaid's Tale right here. This is just like The Handmaid's Tale. Like they just like it, but it's still something to still consider when you hear from different areas throughout the globe is what is available in the area. Because I didn't even know there were different versions of it.
Yeah, exactly. And the people, and it goes back to people being a little hesitant on it because it's not being widely known. It's not saying this is what it is and there you go. So a lot of people end up not having trust because they feel like information is being withheld. So, which makes sense. It really does. So on top of that, did you know that people who are not vaccinated are starting to call themselves purebloods?
No.
Breaker buddies is a thing.
I'm definitely not a pureblood, historically speaking. There's no way. To be honest with you, is there anyone truly, the people find out a lot of times now that their ancestry is not no one's is 100%. No one is.
No one.
No one. So is there a pureblood? Okay, like.
So in their sense, they're thinking pureblood is like, oh, I'm unvaccinated, so my blood is not contaminated with vaccine. And so they're thinking, okay, now their blood and they're just them as a whole is going to be hot commodities. They're going to be the rarity of the human race, because they did not take the vaccine. Now, as a rebuttal on that, is like, I'm pretty sure when you were young, you've gotten vaccines. I'm sure at one point you've gotten the flu shot. So I wouldn't consider that pure blood either in that sense, as well as the hereditary genealogy sense.
A little bit.
So, but that's a thing, Rissy. That is a thing. So what would you do if someone came up to you and said, I'm a pure blood?
Okay, ma'am. So how can I help you? Sorry.
It's so funny. So
how can I help you? What do you need?
It kind of goes back to, I don't want to have conversations with stupid people.
Like, what you need? I'll be thrown off. I'm not gonna lie, because again, my thought process of purebred and someone who's not what my image I'm thinking is that, I'll be like, so what's going on? Like, so what is it? You know? And if they break it down, I'm like, oh, because you feel like the vaccine is going to change your DNA, with COVID changes your DNA anyway. But so I've heard. But I don't know. I'll be really weird. I'll be like, no, we're not. Nothing's pure anymore. Okay. Just
That look though. That look is.
Tell me. What about you, Kaninja? Someone has someone already done that to you already?
No one has actually came up to me, but there are people on TikTok.
Oh, the TikTok.
Yeah, that have given themselves the name of pureblood. That they actually find it insulting to be called unvaccinated, and they want to be called purebloods at this point. And so, if someone, yeah, I think I would be kind of put off too if someone came up to me and said, "I am a pureblood." I would like, "Are you a vampire? Like, like, is that what you are? Are you a werewolf? Like, what's happening? Are you a mythical creature? Because I don't think that you are."
Oh, no, you like, okay, all right, Twilight. Is that what we're doing? We're doing Twilight right now. Like, okay.
Exactly.
So, what else are they saying, Kaninja? Because this is just, you said on TikTok, so I need to get on TikTok a little bit more.
Yeah, TikTok. Rissy and I are on TikTok now. Well, Rissy's on TikTok now. I was on already, but
we're trying to get TikTok famous so we can go and do this for the rest of our life. Do this.
Talk to you all. So a lot of them, so the one we call purebreds, and now what's happening is that they trust this medicine called ivermectin. And so ivermectin is, and actually I got this from the FDA.gov. So if you trust the FDA, this is from them. Ivermectin tablets are approved by the FDA to treat people with intestinal strongyloidiasis. And there's a lot of long words, but basically intestinal worms, like parasites. So really there's two conditions caused by parasitic worms. In addition, some topical forms of ivermectin are approved to treat external parasites like head lice and for skin conditions like rosacea, or something along those lines. Probably like a ringworm or anything along those lines. So it has to do with more parasitic type, situations. But what people are doing now is that they're thinking that ivermectin is going to cure them of COVID. So people are taking ivermectin if they end up getting diagnosed with COVID, or testing positive with COVID, or even beforehand to prevent them from getting COVID. So they're actually, a lot of times they're actually forcing their doctors to prescribe it to them, or they're going to like back alleys or whatever the case to get ivermectin. Now, typically, whenever that happens, they give them the horse or animal sized tablets for people to take. Unfortunately, a lot of people end up dying or becoming very, very sick because they're taking more of a stronger dose than what, a typical human would take for ivermectin. And people are actually thinking that this is going to be explicit, but they are going number 2, and they are seeing in the lining of their intestines, but they're thinking it's actually worms, or they're thinking that it's actually COVID, that they're actually going number 2 of COVID. They're like, oh, it's working, or hey,
no way.
Yes. And then they're also saying like, hey, maybe I did have worms and now it's okay, I saved myself. But really what it is the lining of their intestines. And so they're really destroying their intestines. Now, backtrack. COVID-19 is a respiratory virus.
Sorry.
And it affects your lungs. And primarily, that's why if you have asthma. That's why you need the incubator, because you cannot breathe. That's usually whenever that happens because it affects your lungs. And a lot of times people who die end up dying also of pneumonia because that's also fluid in your lungs, inflammation of your lungs, all that stuff, because it's a respiratory virus. Ivermectin affects your intestines, or a topical for your skin. It has nothing to do with your respiratory. Now, I did do some research, and they are actually going into clinical stages to actually test it to see how well it does work for COVID-19. And so, yeah, and I say it's like it could act as an anti-inflammatory. Again, though, it's your COVID-19 is a respiratory virus. It could inflame your lungs, and if they're saying it could act as an anti-inflammatory, so can Advil or ibuprofen or Tylenol, all these other things that are a little bit safer than a dewormer. So, kind of backtracking a little bit more, if these people, and something that I don't understand, Rissy, is these people don't trust the vaccine, let's just say because of the certain amount of time it's been out. But they get ivermectin that hasn't even been tested for COVID. And it's still in its clinical studies where the vaccine has been approved, tested, all that stuff for COVID. That's the part where, going back to part one, when Rissy was saying, like, I'm the kind of person saying, what? To certain situations, that's when I start questioning things. Rissy, what are your thoughts on all this?
I don't know. I think at this point we're just like, I guess because there is a layer where the collectors, we don't trust the government. So it's kind of like, screw you. We're not taking this just because you said it. We'll take something else. Okay. I'm gonna take something else. Like, so okay, sir or ma'am, you're about to take something that's literally for like something else, like for your skin. I want that for COVID. Like, but that no. I just want to take something else.
Right.
Let me take something else.
Now, there have been some people that I know who know of some people who have taken ivermectin and who had COVID, and they're like, yeah, they got over it in a few days. So I can understand why people are like, oh, ivermectin is the way, because people who have had COVID, they've taken ivermectin and they felt better. Well, you can look at so many different situations here, is that people who can get COVID are asymptomatic. Other people who gotten COVID go into the hospital. You have a spectrum of situations. It's hard to say that was the pinpoint as to what made them feel better when that was the first and maybe only time they had COVID and they're unvaccinated. You really can't say definitively that is the cause of that person feeling better after 2 days. They could just have a different body, a different immune system. They could just have that situation. I mean, again, like, I know someone who had COVID, they had it, but it was very minimal effects. And the person was older. They had pre-existing conditions, but it was very minimal effects. But then I also know some other people whose their family or friends had COVID and they died, and so it's a huge spectrum of like whoever gets it, you don't know how they're going to react. We just have certain data to say, if you're in this group and you have this, you have more chances of going to the hospital. If you're in this group and you have that, you have more chances of not, but now it's kind of across the board because you have people that are in their 20s dying, who didn't have a pre-existing condition, so that type, it's hard for me to say, yes, ivermectin works because it made some people feel better from COVID, but it's not really a definitive cause and effect.
Right. And I think that's where everyone just has to know, like, hey, nobody knows. No one truly knows.
Yeah. Just be
guesses here.
Yeah, exactly. Just be safe. Kind of going back to like Rissy, it's just be safe.
Just be safe. Be safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think those are the main two things that I actually heard about what people who are anti the vaccine, think.
Yeah.
Now, some other things, I guess some more information is that like with the vaccine, they do say that the vaccine prevents you from getting COVID, but the argument is, well, people who are vaccinated still get COVID.
Yes.
So, and that's true. And people who are vaccinated can still die from COVID. That is also true. The percentage of that is a lot less compared to the people who are not vaccinated, but as to why. And so, kind of going back to the viral load, when someone who is, so, okay, break room buddies. So, I made caramel salted brownies, and Rissy always loves my baking. And so I always make sure to save some for Rissy. And so, and as you guys know, I'm vaccinated, she's not. And so there was a time where I actually was encountered or almost encountered basically someone who had COVID. Luckily, we had our masks, so, and all that stuff. But when Rissy came over to, get the brownies, I actually left it on like the door sill, I guess you can say, kind of the step there, and I stepped back. I know I'm vaccinated, and but I know she's unvaccinated. She had her mask on, but still to be safe, that's what I did. Even though I could, if I did have COVID and I transferred it to Rissy, it would have been a less viral load, but it still could affect her in a harsher way than it would have been affecting me because Rissy doesn't have any antibodies. So be safe. Moral of the story.
And I think that if we just keep doing that, I mean, if everybody wants, I don't know, just be safe, be consistent and safe. So don't get tired. Don't do it and be like, oh, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to do this. No, gotta keep it up. Okay, keep it up because that's how they're gonna get you. Okay?
Exactly. So at this point, we are about out of time. So we are going to finish out with our final thoughts. So Rissy, you want to go first?
Yes. Let's see here.
Break room buddies, I always spring this on Rissy, like completely by surprise. So
Time, yo, like every time I'm just like, oh, me? Okay. So great topic as always, Kaninja. COVID is still here. It's gonna be here for a little bit longer. All right. Stay safe. There might be a 5th vaccine available for us by the end of this year. Who knows? Just continue to be safe and purebreds reunite. Okay, we're there, purebreds. Sorry. That's like 30 seconds.
Seriously. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there is a lot of information out there for the vaccine, but there's also a lot of false information about the vaccine. So definitely take your time to do the research and actually listen to your doctor. Your doctor, you go to your doctor for surgeries, checkups, for other vaccines, for all these other things. If your doctor says it's safe, just listen to your doctor. And that's all I can say. You can do all the research you want in the world. It's still not going to amount to the same amount that your doctor has done in 10 plus years that they were in, medical school. So that's the only thing I can say on that one. But definitely be safe. If you still don't want to do it and you're not comfortable, I totally understand. Just be safe. Wear a mask. It works. And hand sanitizer. That also works. But with that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share our YouTube episode on our YouTube channel. We are pointing everywhere, as well as visit our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with any kind of feedback that you may have, any type of suggestions that you may have. Like this topic was actually a suggestion from one of our listeners, so we really want to do a shout out to them and saying thank you for giving us this topic, and definitely give us your feedback and whatever it may be. Also let us know about what your thoughts are in the vaccine and has it changed since last year. and what your thoughts are on purebreds and ivermectin. With that, though, I just totally lost what I was going to say.
Bye, piggy buddies.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next time.